It is Monday, May 29th, 2017. It is 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So you know what time it is. It's time for a little bit of coin metal. And I'll be honest, right off the bat, I'm not entirely plussed in any one direction. Now, let me explain that a little bit. I had a really interesting weekend, just really disconnected. I abandoned all but my most menial amounts of communications with the internet and just went and hung out somewhere where there really wasn't any of that. And I didn't pay any attention to crypto, and I didn't pay any attention to Bitcoin, and I even did my best not even to utter a word about it. Because, sometimes you need to step back, you just need to take a step back and reassess, kind of get a feel for what's going on around you in a more disconnected, less internet-oriented kind of way, It's one of the reasons why I do jiu-jitsu, because, as smart as we may think we are, or, how tough we may think we are, or how buff or whatever, what we think about our intelligence or our capability to subvert attacks and so on and so forth, you really don't find that out, that whether you're just talking a bunch of shit or whether there's anything to it until you actually get on the mat and you have somebody just as intent as you are to prevail interacting with you. I mean, when you're facing it on that kind of level, there's just there's not as much room for bullshit. There just isn't. You can feign, you can cardio tap like I sometimes do. But what you really can't do is fake the funk. Because when the guy goes for your neck, you either have the funk that's necessary to get out of that situation, or you don't, and he's going to choke you. And that's all there is to it. There's no if, and, or but about it. So far I seem to be okay about getting myself in a position to get choked, but I'm not as good at getting out. I got to work on that. But I will say this, that I don't get the impression that my sparring partners feel like they're wasting their time or that they aren't getting their money's worth out of me. That when they're rolling with me, that they feel threatened at least some of the time. And really, I'm a white belt, so at this point, that's the best I can expect. In any case, for those brief times that I do have a little bit of inspirato and notice that ankle that can be grabbed and I can just sweep him on his side, for all those, I got the first dance for you here, Rude Awakening by Prong, here on Coin Metal. And that was The Art of Shredding by Pantera. Had to dig a little deeper for that one, had to rifle around in the old collection and find the good stuff. In any case, as far as like articles and stuff, I kind of divested myself from that whole UASF business. The whole idea is just kind of silly to me. I did a little bit of reading on it. I may do some reading on it on this episode. I'm really trying to get away from it, honestly, because I think it's just kind of stupid, But I do have an interesting little article here, and I don't know. I may read it, but I'm more concerned about it. Another thing that I've been seeing recently is all this hacking. It's I think I've made note of this on the show before, that to me what hacking is like misappropriated brain power. It's like there's like a use for this brain power, and it's not being used that way, and instead, because it's not being used that way, it's being used in other ways, and that includes hacking into shit. And I think it has a lot to do with the value propositions that we have before us, and the lack of continuity between what is on a piece of paper written as law and as we see things being applied, or the law being applied. You know, it seems kind of like there's some serious disparities between what justice represents for the average person and those in lofty position. Now, I did see something that gave me hope, and it was a while ago. It was Iceland. They finally just pulled the rug out from under the bankers that had been screwing them over and said no more. And they put them in jail. I think that's pretty cool. Now, I'm not saying that all bankers need to go to jail. I don't think they do anyway. But I don't think that we can continue to operate on the way that we're doing finance here in the United States with stuff. I mean, I think the whole idea of going into miserable debt to buy a house is kind of silly. And fucking pop-ups, man. You gotta fucking love them. You know what? Who invited fucking 1998 internet back into the fucking 2000s? Who was that asshole? I'd really like to just walk up and sock him one. No warning, man. Just drill that guy right in the dome. There, you wanted some sort of emotional reaction for today. There, bullshit pop-ups that pop up without you wanting them to. That just pisses me off. Anyway, so hacking. I think there's something wrong there. It's like I was watching my Twitter feed on, I think it was Friday? No, it was Saturday. And I can't remember the guy's name, and I'm not gonna. God damn you, sons of bitches! What the fuck? Bright Cove. Alright, whoever invented Bright Cove, fuck you. You suck. I hate you. There. I was gonna go off today about how I don't hate anybody, but this guy, whoever invented Bright Cove, you're a fucking asshole. You invited 1998 back into 2000s. You suck. I mean, don't you remember that back in like 1997, 1998? You'd be like flipping through regular web pages, and like somewhere along the line in last night's search for prawn, you picked up a bug somewhere, and then all of a sudden you got your fucking entire desktop populated with a bunch of fucking windows popping open. And you're like, oh my fuck my Christ, what did I do now? And of course it was because some asshole managed to like inject plant shit into your browser. That's not good. A lot of times I think this stuff is just like live tests. It's like, let's see how this shit works in the wild. You know, let's see if this crashes in a lot of computers, and if so, we'll like back off on the intrusiveness just a little bit, keep those fans from overheating, or keep the processors from overheating. But, you know, we pushed it a little too far. We BSOD'd or yeah, fucking blue screened half our fucking constituency of viewers. We're gonna have to tone that back off of 11 next time. But anyway, so again, back to public live testing. You know, everything happens for a purpose. There's a purpose behind everything. There's a motivation behind everything. There's an incentive behind everything. It's what drives Bitcoin is the incentives. Now, they've got monkeyed around a little bit. They have. And nobody's denying that. But honestly, I think taking it out of the hands of the people is probably not the best way to do it. And I really believe this, that segregated witness is like the first step on that path. You know, when really all that's needed, like, I was thinking about this on the way home. What if, instead of leaving these decisions up to people, right? Every time we have a happening, we multiply the size of the block by 2. So, like, back when it went from like 50 down to 25, that should have gone from 1 megabyte to 2 megabytes. All right, and then if we'd have done that, when we got here to this last halvening, where we went from 25 down to 12 and a half, we should have gone to 4 megabytes. And see, if we were at 4 megabytes right now, we would not be having this conversation about segregated witness. So that's what I'm saying. It's like, so what? Next time, 4 years from now, or roughly, they're about 3.5 years, 8 megabyte blocks. Now, if in 4 years we can't have fast enough internet, cheap enough electricity, cheap enough hashing power, cheap enough hard drive space, RAM, all that bullshit to get it to keep it going, then something goofy happened. I mean, because that should be more than enough block space to occupy all the transactions that are happening out there. And again, no need for segregating the witness and making it possible for another fucking set of nodes to get in there and be the third party. That to me is what it's really all about, is getting those additional layers in there. And that's wonderful that people want to build on Bitcoin. But you know what? Why are you trying to make Bitcoin do your fucking work for you? If you do the work on the Bitcoin network as either a node or a miner, that's all the participation you really need. I mean, you might as well be plugged in directly to the fucking Swift network. Why do you want to put a bank and then another company between you and the blockchain? Because that's what's going to end up happening. This is like the first step to that series of steps that prices you out of the ability to directly impact in Bitcoin. I mean, really, you gotta read the paperwork on this stuff. They spell it out for you in plain English. But again, I think that we should be making these decisions mechanistically. Like part of the formula, If I ever develop a coin, that'll be on the halvening, we will go to double the capacity on the blocks. Period. Anyway, so hacking. I find it humorous that this is actually on Forbes, so I got to question the veracity of it somewhat, but we'll go with it. And this was written by Laura Shin, no penis, to my knowledge. Hackers have stolen millions of dollars in Bitcoin using only phone numbers. Just after midnight on August 11th, when was this thing written? Hold on. Oh, never mind. Jesus Christ. How did I even get a hold of this thing? December 20th, 2016. This is old news. And it's got pop-ups all over it, too. Fuck these guys. No, I don't want to read that one yet. And I don't think you guys want to hear about MMA. Let me get rid of that one. And I don't want to talk... No. Oh, that one was kind of interesting. If you go to the USAF or UASF node tracker, their graphs are really, really fun. Like, if you go down to the second one on here, it says node signaling UASF SegWit of all time. And let's see. We have a whole bunch of it is UA comment, and that's like an average of less than 300. They make it sound like there's like thousands and thousands and thousands of nodes that are going to signal for UASF, right? According to their graph, the highest number they've ever had was just over 1,000. Or, I'm sorry, wait a minute. No, here. Now, they're counting UA comment as UASF. Now, I don't know what that means. I'll have to look deeper into that. But all told, they're looking at like 6,254 nodes. And I'm assuming this is signaling for 148 UASF. But now, the percentage of nodes signaling UASF today, about 11%. Yeah, they're averaging about 11%. And of all time, let's see, the maximum amount they've ever had was 45.94%. And that was percentage of nodes signaling for UASF SegWit all time. Now, supposedly, they're going to come up with twice that or thereabouts by August 1st. Now, you got to wonder about this tester business, because if you look at the graph, they just have it ambles along and it never really breaks 12% except for this one itty bitty brief period of time where it spikes way the fuck up there over 45%. Now, this is what I was talking about before, where they're just, in my opinion, they're just going to try and get it flagged over. And as soon as it's done, their plan is they're just going to shut it off and everything's going to be fine. You know, those miners will be forced to switch over to BIP 148 and SegWit will go into effect and everything will be hunky-dory and they can just shut off those nodes. See, what they don't talk about is some of the other changes that happen with SegWit. Like the voting power on the consensus being diverted over to users, or nodes rather, as opposed to the miners, so that they would be forced from then on by the users, the quote-unquote users, really undefined name there, user. I mean, I could just as easily put Goldman Sachs in there as user, or U.S. Bank, or any one of them. You know, Federal Reserve. I could stuff any central bank in there I want in the name user, and you know, as long as it's operating according to the desire of the user, everything is fine, right? I mean, really, that's a big question mark, the word user. Okay, a miner, that's a very specific thing. Okay, and I was thinking about something else here. And I really don't want to rail on this too long, because honestly, I'm getting bored with the whole fucking thing. I think it's just such a bullshit argument. It's been going on for 2 years now. The argument has been, should we update to 2 megabytes? Or should we add all this other bullshit that's going to add third parties into Bitcoin permanently? I mean, that's really intrinsically what the argument is. And I find that a really flawed argument. I mean, really, we've seen the power of this network. What happened when Ghash.io was just about ready to hit 51% and everybody got all scared about it? What happened? People took their workers offline at Ghash.io and they moved them to another pool. They rediverted their hash power to another pool. Everything evened out. Ghash.io fell apart shortly thereafter, but that's not our problem. The point being that changes happen in this space, and they're supposed to be able to happen like that. No constituency should ever feel like they've got some cemented in position in this space. You should always feel like you are walking on quicksand, because that is how fast the global economy actually operates. It doesn't operate at the speed of your laws. It doesn't operate at the speed of your regulation. It operates at the speed of life. And that's the level of demand that crypto actually can fulfill without a 3 to 5 business day delay. But I'm telling you right now, you put this SegWit bullshit in, and you're going to be waiting a lot longer than 3 to 5 business days to find out whether or not your transactions ever confirm. You can take that one to the bank. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw down a little bit of music for the moment while I find us an appropriate article, because honestly, I'm not going to bore you guys with UASF, not on Monday. I'm going to let up just a teeny tiny on that bullshit, or at least as much as I can personally divert away from it while I've got you on here. So here it is. Goddamn Trouble by Overkill. Here on Coin Metal. And that was The Conjuring by Megadeth. An oldie but goodie. You certainly cannot get past that album. You know, if you ever get the urge to find out what Megadeth was all about back in the day, you really can't do better than The Conjuring. Or Peace Souls, but who's buying? Actually, Killing Is My Business is a fantastic album too. And honestly, I feel like that album was at least 10 years ahead of its time, if not still completely relevant. In any case, I was meandering through my Twitter feed, and I came across something really interesting. Mr. Mega Upload has posted a PDF concerning his case. And this was written by I believe it was a Harvard professor. And the title of it is Mega Upload, the Copyright Lobby and the Future of Digital Rights. And as we are on the internet, I do believe this does pertain to us. It's the United States versus you and KimDotCom. Actually, it's probably versus KimDotCom and you, but, you know, they like to put the emphasis on you. And this is a white paper by Robert R. Amsterdam and Ira P. Rothkin. And gentlemen, or I'm assuming Ira is a male, possibly a female. I don't know. All I will say is that we will be holding you to the same syntax and grammar and scansion standards that we've come to expect on this show. And if you do not deliver, we will not be happy, but we're not going to make that big a deal about it. Anyway, so this is a white paper by these two gentlemen, and this is like a white paper of the case. And I am going to read the preambling comments here, as I think they might be a little bit relevant, and I will be reading at least the executive summary, if not the entirety of it. The print is quite large on this thing, but it is 48 pages long. So how much of it we will actually digest tonight on this here show, that remains to be seen. But we're going to give it a try. Anyway, here we go. The United States versus you and KimDotCom. The United States Congress is now incapable of passing laws without permission from the corporate lobbies and other special interests that control their campaign finances. And this is Al Gore, former Vice President of the United States, saying this business. Viewed up close, copyright bears little resemblance to the kinds of property that conservatives value. Instead, it looks like a constantly expanding government program run for the benefit of a noisy, well-organized interest group. And this is Stuart Baker, former Assistant Secretary for Policy at the Department of Homeland Security under President George W. Bush. Those who count on, quote, Hollywood for support need to understand that this industry is watching very carefully who's going to stand up for them when their job is at stake. Don't ask me to write a check for you when you think your job is at risk, and then don't pay attention to me when my job is at stake. Chris Dodd, chairman of the Motion Picture Association of America and former senator of the United States. And on to the executive summary. And like I said, we'll at least read the executive summary tonight. If not, like, dive deeper. It really depends on how interesting I can make it sound. You know, if it's tragically droll on its own tonation, I'm sorry, man. I can only add so much whipped cream to a pile of dog shit. All right, here we go. The criminal prosecution of Mega Upload and KimDotCom is purportedly the largest copyright case in history, involving tens of millions of users around the world, and yet it is founded on highly dubious legal principles and apparently propelled by the White House's desire to mollify the motion picture industry in exchange for campaign contributions and political support. The U.S. government's attack on the popular cloud storage service Mega Upload and the dramatized arrest of KimDotCom, the company's principal founder, together with the seizure of all their worldwide assets, represents one of the clearest examples of prosecutorial overreach in recent history. One day after the U.S. Congress failed to enact the controversial Stop Online Piracy Act, SOPA, the executive branch of the United States government commandeered Mega Upload in a coordinated global takedown and drew battle lines between digital rights advocates, technology innovators, and ordinary information consumers on the one side, and Hollywood and the rest of the copyright lobby on the other. Mega Upload operated for 7 years as a successful cloud storage business that enabled tens of millions of users around the world to upload and download content of the user's own choosing and initiative. The spectrum of content ran from, to name just a few, family photos, artistic designs, business activities, academic coursework, legitimately purchased files, videos, and music, and, as with any other cloud storage service, some potentially infringing material. Despite Mega Upload's lawful uses, the U.S. government has charged the company and its executives under the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, RICO, and has branded the company, its personnel, and its tens of millions of users a criminal enterprise dedicated solely to infringing U.S. copyright laws. The U.S. government's case against Mega Upload is grounded in a theory of criminal secondary copyright infringement. In other words, the prosecution seeks to hold Mega Upload and its executives criminally responsible for alleged infringement by the company's third-party cloud storage users. The problem with the theory, however, is that secondary copyright infringement is not, nor has it ever been, a crime in the United States. The federal courts lack any power to criminalize secondary copyright infringement. The U.S. Congress alone has such authority, and it has not done so. Much to the benefit to all of us, I might add. As such, the Mega Upload prosecution is not only baseless, it is unprecedented. Although the U.S. government has previously shut down foreign websites engaged in direct infringement, such as the sale or distribution of infringing material, never before has it brought criminal charges against the cloud-filed storage service because of the conduct of its users. Thus, the Mega Upload case is the first time the government has taken down a foreign website, destroying the company and seizing all of its assets of its owners and the data of its users without so much as a hearing based on a crime that does not exist. To make matters worse, in order to persuade other companies to cooperate with the takedown, the U.S. government misled them into believing that Mega Upload was involved in direct infringement. One of many such examples involved applications for warrants to search and seize Mega Upload computer servers in Canada. In those applications, the U.S. government misled the Canadian authorities by stating that the U.S. was prosecuting Mega Upload for operating and administering websites that reproduce and distribute infringing material. Even if the U.S. government had believed Mega Upload was reproducing and distributing infringing material, which it was not, the government was certainly aware that the criminal charges it was prosecuting were not based on any such allegations. Further, the U.S. government made those misrepresentations to Canadian authorities without any advance notice to Mega Upload, meaning that nobody was present to refute them. That's kind of important. Even if the U.S. government's wishful expansion of the criminal copyright law into the realm of secondary infringement were tenable, which it is not, Mega Upload is shielded from criminal liability by specific safe harbor provisions in the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, included in the law to protect companies like Mega Upload that make efforts to remove infringing material in response to takedown notices issued by copyright holders. The DMCA's safe harbor provisions have been upheld repeatedly by the courts, most recently in the Southern District of New York in Viacom versus YouTube, which, among other things, determined that mere generalized knowledge of infringement does not deprive a service provider of the protections of the DMCA's safe harbor provisions. On April 18, 2013, the Viacom court rejected the argument that YouTube was only entitled to safe harbor protection if it could prove that it was unaware of infringement. The court noted that service providers serve useful function and pointed out that given the volume of content being uploaded/downloaded on a site like YouTube, no service provider could possibly be aware of the contents of each such video. Congress put the burden on the copyright owner to notify the service provider of infringements in writing and with specified contents. And the court concluded that the burden would not be shifted back to YouTube to disprove its knowledge. YouTube was entitled to the DMC's safe harbor provisions because Viacom was not able to prove that YouTube had actual knowledge of specific acts of infringement. And I might add, they've gotten really good about tracking that shit. Continuing on. The Viacom court also emphasized that the benefits of DMCA safe harbor protection did not require affirmative monitoring by YouTube based on some general awareness that infringement may be occurring. Nothing in the DMCA required YouTube to affirmatively seek out facts indicating infringing activity. Even though YouTube could potentially locate infringements using its own identification tools, it had no duty under the DMCA to do so. I would have much rather they didn't, but who am I? It's their business. The court stated that the governing principle must remain clear. Knowledge of the prevalence of infringing activity and welcoming it does not itself forfeit the safe harbor. While Mega Upload systematically responded to countless DMCA takedown notices, it went even further to guard against copyright violations. It voluntarily gave major copyright holders direct access to its servers to remove links they considered to be infringing without any oversight by Mega Upload and without requiring them to follow the statutory takedown notice procedures. The U.S. government's case is legally untenable for the additional reason that Mega Upload and its executives do not reside in the United States, and most of the company's activities occurred outside the United States. The government is foreclosed from prosecuting Mega Upload in the Eastern District of Virginia or anywhere in the United States because the court lacks jurisdiction over the company. More specifically, the prosecution is unable to serve Mega Upload with criminal service of process, which in the case of a corporate entity calls for service of a summons. Because the company has neither an agent nor an office inside the United States. Although the government has advanced a number of arguments why it should be allowed to bypass due process and skirt the express requirements of the federal rules of criminal procedure, none of its arguments has any basis in law. Nevertheless, despite these glaring obstacles, the U.S. government sought and obtained a criminal indictment against Mega Upload, seizing all of the global assets of the company and its founders, including domain names, and forced the company into extinction. The seizure order was requested ex parte, which is to say that Mega Upload was given no notice and was not present at the hearing to object to the government's request. And because the U.S. government has not attempted to serve Mega Upload with a summons, and it cannot due to lack of jurisdiction, the seizure order is in a sort of legal limbo. It remains in place, yet as a practical matter, Mega Upload cannot challenge it, even now, more than a year later. Meanwhile, Mega Upload servers, which contain petabytes of important evidence relevant to the defense, have been taken offline for lack of funding. Astonishingly, the U.S. government initially was content to let the data on the servers be destroyed, and although that has not occurred, the equipment has been gathering dust for many months and is in danger of deteriorating. The U.S. government will not agree to release a single penny of Mega Upload funds to allow for consumers to access their data, or to preserve the evidence, or even to mount a legal defense in the United States. Those are not the only dirty tricks the U.S. government has employed to try and manufacture a criminal case against Mega Upload. The government violated its legal obligations by misrepresenting facts and intentionally omitting critical, exculpatory information when it applied for the search for warrants to seize Mega Upload's domain names. Specifically, the government's warrant application said that Mega Upload had been informed about 39 infringing copies of copyrighted motion pictures, yet had neglected to remove them from its servers, thereby suggesting that Mega Upload possessed a criminal state of mind, a necessary element for the warrants to issue. In actuality, the FBI had informed Mega Upload through Carpathia Hosting, one of the company's server vendors, which the government had deputized to communicate on its behalf, that the FBI was conducting an investigation into those files. In support of its application for warrant, the FBI agent stated under oath, "Since the investigation is continuing, the affiliate requests that this search warrant affidavit be sealed until such time as the court directs otherwise. Disclosure of the search warrant affidavit at this time would seriously jeopardize the ongoing investigation, as such disclosure may provide an opportunity to destroy evidence, change patterns of behavior, notify Confederates, or allow Confederates to flee or Jesus fucking Christ. To flee, F-L-E-E, not fee, flee, or continue flight from prosecution. Notwithstanding the above, the government requests that Carpathia and its customer Mega Upload be permitted to view the warrant and attachments A and B to the warrant to assist them in executing the warrant. Thus, through Carpathia, the FBI provided Mega Upload with a copy of a sealed warrant concerning alleged third-party infringement and asked the company to treat the warrant with utmost secrecy, suggesting that any action by Mega Upload to take down the materials might alert the infringing third parties and jeopardize the ongoing investigation. Naturally, Mega Upload cooperated and preserved the status quo so the FBI's investigation could proceed unhindered. Now, just take a moment and think about this. What if the files they were talking about were like child porn or something like that? Then they would be like forcing him to maintain child porn, which they could then later on nail him with. That's pretty sick. Anyway, continuing on. Thus, the U.S. government manipulated Mega Upload to leave certain materials in place while failing to inform Mega Upload it was itself a target of the investigation. Then twisted the facts and used Mega Upload's cooperation as the only direct evidence of purported criminal intent. At the same time, prosecutors intentionally omitted all mention of numerous anti-privacy measures Mega Upload had long since put in place to deter infringement by its users, all of which demonstrate an absence of criminal intent. Based on those tandem due process violations, mischaracterization of facts coupled with the omission of exculpatory evidence, neither of which could be argued by a defendant, by a defendant who was not present, the government secured its search warrants, seized Mega Upload's domain names, and in an instant, effectively destroyed the company. In New Zealand, KimDotCom, one of Mega Upload's founders and a resident of that country, now faces extradition proceedings initiated by the U.S. government. There, a New Zealand government intelligence arm was persuaded to illegally spy on KimDotCom. Those due process abuses were eventually brought to light in court proceedings, forcing New Zealand's Prime Minister to issue a public apology. Further, when the New Zealand authorities raided KimDotCom's home in January of 2012, they did so based on search warrants that a New Zealand court later determined to be illegal. Additionally, the New Zealand court determined that the U.S. government had transferred KimDotCom's and the other Mega Uploads executives' hard drive data out of New Zealand in a violation of New Zealand law. To date, the U.S. authorities have refused to return the data, despite the fact that they were acquired illegally and in violation of KimDotCom's privacy rights, and notwithstanding their importance to any defense against the criminal charges. Under ordinary circumstances, there would be no reason for illegal surveillance. A 72-page indictment, a RICO mega conspiracy label, an overly expansive and unsupported legal theory of criminal liability, a dramatic raid on a private residence, an abrupt seizure of hundreds of millions of private computer files, willful omission of exculpatory evidence, and other due process violations, a worldwide seizure of the defendant's assets without any allowance for defense costs, and a black media campaign with an inordinate focus on the principal founder's financial success and flamboyant lifestyle. Those variables, among other abuses, make sense only in the context of some motivating factor outside the U.S. Department of Justice's mandate. Indeed, the outside motivating factor in this case stems from the Motion Picture Association of America's erroneous view of Mega Upload as the very top of the privacy pyramid, coupled with the current administration's desire to placate an association whose members as a group are some of the Democratic Party's strongest political supporters and most generous campaign contributors. There is little dispute that the prosecution of Mega Upload and KimDotCom has been driven principally by the Motion Picture Association of America, the MPAA, which represents the 6th largest film and television production studios in Hollywood, publicly labeled Mega Upload a notorious market outside of the United States in a November 2010 submission to the Office of the U.S. Trade Representatives. Behind the scenes, however, the MPAA had already persuaded the FBI to initiate an investigation into Mega Upload's business months before. Yeah, I don't know. I think that was the end of the actual summary. And what page are we on? We're on 8 out of 48. We've got easily another 2 hours to go. I think we can digest this bad boy. You know, like I said, it's pretty fast moving. It's fairly tasty, so I mean, I don't feel like I have to jazz it up too much. So let's go ahead and take a short music break right here. Let me get a little rehydrated, and then we'll go ahead and throw it down. I'm gonna take a bit more of this bad boy on. I was looking for some sort of vacation from UASF, User Assisted Suicide Fork, and by golly, I found it. In any case, let's go ahead and throw down a little bit of music and what to put in. That's always such an issue for me on this show. And it's only because I got a lot of really good music to play. Let's go ahead and throw it down. Helmet, Unsung, here on Coin Metal. And that was Fear Factory with What Will Become. And, Yeah, I had a little bit of a glitch there in the middle. My apologies. We can't do everything 120% all the time, but we can try. Yeah, for some stupid reason, my program kind of glitched on me there, and I can't seem to hear the music on my side, which sucks because I only play music that I like. So, I'm kind of missing out. Anyway, get some of my other shit squared away here on my desktop. My other business going on here. Like you, I have as much going on different devices as any 3 or 4 lab rats could do at one time. Anyway, I wanted to dive back into this thing because honestly, I've always really admired Mega Upload. I think there are some discontinuities in our media distribution and whatnot that really need to be solved. And I kind of saw his service as one of the conduits for solution, Anyway, let us continue. In certain significant ways, wait, let me see if I actually... No, I'm sorry, I gotta step back just a teeny tiny further here. In early 2011, at or around the time U.S. Senator Chris Dodd took over as chairman and CEO, the MPAA boosted its already robust Washington lobbying activity. Based on mandatory public disclosures, the MPAA's agenda appears to have included pushing the proposed SOPA bill and its Senate corollary, the Protect IP Act, PIPA, both of which were aimed at foreign websites heretofore beyond the reach of the United States courts, and making an example of Mega Upload. The MPAA's lobbyists met with Vice President Joseph Biden and former Senator colleague and political ally of Chris Dodd, to whom the Vice President had referred only months earlier as one of my best friends in life. Gosh, do you think there might be a conflict of interest there? The MPAA also took the unusual step of lobbying U.S. law enforcement agencies directly, including the Department of Justice, the FBI, and the Department of Homeland Security, all of which would later play direct roles in the investigation, arrest, seizure, and prosecution of Mega Upload and KimDotCom. In certain significant ways, the MPAA's support for SOPA is also reflected in the U.S. government's legal theories against Mega Upload. SOPA would have permitted copyright holders to make use of the U.S. federal courts to require internet service providers to block their subscribers' access to domain names of alleged foreign infringing sites and bar search engines, payment processors, and advertisers from doing business with such foreign sites. Notably, SOPA would have defined an infringing foreign site as any site committing or facilitating copyright infringement, regardless of whether the site was, like Mega Upload, engaged in significant non-infringing uses. Funny stuff. SOPA and PIPA were widely opposed on a variety of grounds, including internet security concerns, First Amendment issues, and due process considerations, among others. When the United States released a public statement in January of 2011 expressing the view that any legislation should reflect the interests of not only content creators, but also the technology sector. Chris Dodd made a Fox News appearance on behalf of the MPAA and issued a direct threat to the Obama administration and its re-election campaign. I would caution people, don't make the assumption that because the, quote, Hollywood community has been historically supportive of Democrats, which they have, don't make the false assumption this year that because we did it in years past, we will do it this year. Basically pointing a gun at their head there. And I'm not going to quote the sources on there, but if you do read this PDF, which I believe I did already post on my Twitter feed, you'll be able to keep up with us. Continuing on. Campaign contributions speak loud and clear in Washington, and the required quid pro quo concealed in this instance by the barest of fig leaves was unmistakable. Although SOPA was ultimately defeated, the MPAA's bare-knuckle tactics explain much about the U.S. government's conduct in the mega upload case. It is no coincidence, for example, that the indictment was issued out of the Eastern District of Virginia, where Neil McBride, formerly chief counsel to then Senator Joseph Biden, and on the Senate Judiciary Committee, is the United States Attorney. It is also noteworthy that the MPAA achieved through the U.S. Department of Justice's attack on Mega Upload at least as much as it would have accomplished against foreign websites had SOPA passed. Professor Goldman described the dynamic precisely. The government's prosecution of Mega Upload demonstrates the implications of the government acting as a proxy for private commercial interests. The government is using its enforcement powers to accomplish what most copyright owners haven't been willing to do in civil court, i.e., sue Mega Upload for infringement. And the government is doing so by using its incredibly powerful discovery and enforcement tools that vastly exceed the tools available in civil enforcement, and the government's bringing the prosecution in part because of the revolving door between government and the content industry, where some of the decision makers greenlighting the enforcement action probably worked shoulder to shoulder with the copyright owners, making the request. Plus, the Obama administration's desire to curry continued favor and campaign contributions from well-heeled sources. The degree to which the copyright lobby and the MPAA specifically have managed to instrumentalize the current administration and take down a foreign corporation and its executives is quite literally un-American. There was a time, not very long ago, when the United States stood for principled standards and the rule of law. In years past, the kind of open influence peddling by the MPAA's Chris Dodd during a hotly contested presidential re-election campaign would have drawn condemnation from all quarters. But those values appear to have fallen by the wayside under this White House, which seems content to violate the due process rights of criminal defendants, mislead the courts, and advance baseless legal theories so long as its fundraising remains uninterrupted. The MPAA's overt use of campaign contributions to sway the U.S. government into engaging in what amounts to unlawful action against Mega Upload reflects a form of state capture, a term coined by the World Bank to describe a brand of corruption characterized by the ability of a relatively small number of private interests to shape the official rules of the game through direct payments or other forms of financial influence. By threatening to revoke vital political and monetary support from the administration at a crucial moment, the MPAA has exercised de facto control over key levers of executive power in Washington: law enforcement, prosecutors, trade negotiators, and is using those instruments of state power to further the financial interests of its members in Hollywood. For example, Section 181 of the Internal Revenue Code, known as the Domestic Film Production Incentive Program, gives television studios steep tax deductions on full or partial costs of their productions on a per-episode basis. In 2013, Congress retroactively extended that tax break to 2012. MPAA member studios receive a tax break in the order of $1.51 billion every year in the form of subsidies or incentives from individual state governments, allowing them to defray income and or sales tax incurred during the filmmaking in those states. The copyright lobby is able to access the U.S. legislative drafting process. For example, Michael O'Leary, the MPAA's senior executive vice president for global policy and external affairs, confirmed that the MPAA was responsible for the language contained in the SOPA bill. The copyright lobby is able to access and utilize the U.S. diplomatic apparatus to pressure other countries to enact legislation that benefits the copyright lobby. In Spain, for example, the MPAA lobbied for passage of a new copyright law known as Ley Cinde, which allows copyright holders to discover the identity of alleged infringers and block their websites within 48 hours. The copyright lobby facilitated development of Special 301 blacklist of the Office of the United States Trade Representative, USTR, which gives negotiating leverage to the USTR over foreign governments to persuade them to take action against alleged infringers in other countries. Sounds like an international clusterfuck to me. The copyright lobby has been able to work closely with the U.S. trade officials to insert favorable language into various trade agreements. For example, the MPAA was active in negotiating the Agreement on Trade Relation Aspects of Intellectual Property Rights, TRIPS, of the World Trade Organization, which, among other things, now includes remuneration for royalty payments to corporations. The MPAA's involvement in the TRIPS negotiations marked an increase in private sector lobbying in the international system, making it virtually impossible to interpret TRIPS provisions without input from the private sector and ensuring an ongoing influential role for the MPAA in future enforcement of TRIPS provisions with regard to movie copyrights. The MPAA was also involved in drafting the failed anti-counterfeiting trade agreement and the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, which is presently in the negotiation phase. Unfortunately, as a consequence of its complicity in the arrangement, this White House has abdicated the moral high ground, if it ever held it, from where it might credibly exhort other countries to abide by the rule of law as a governing principle in all circumstances. The U.S. government's attack against Mega Upload bears the hallmarks of a contract prosecution, a case resting on erroneous theories of criminal law, littered with due process violations and prosecutorial abuses carried out for the benefit of a select few in exchange for their political and financial support. In the name of eliminating copyright infringement, Hollywood has exerted a corrupting influence in Washington, leading us all down a slippery slope that not only threatens innovation and internet freedom, but also has profound implications for constitutional principles of free speech, privacy, and due process. Mega Upload and KimDotCom are today's targets, but the crosshairs can easily be trained on anybody who dares to challenge or inconvenience a special interest that holds sway in Washington and the current administration. With its notorious insatiable appetite for campaign contribution, seems all too willing to cooperate. Terribly interesting. The unfortunate case of Aaron Swartz also comes to mind. Swartz was a young internet entrepreneur, founder of Infogamy and co-founder of Reddit and RSS co-developer, an activist for government reform, digital rights, and civil liberties, and a vocal opponent of SOPA. He was indicted in 2011 for allegedly attaching a laptop to MIT's computer network and downloading a large number of articles from an archive of academic journals. The prosecution alleged that Schwartz intended to make the papers available on peer-to-peer file-sharing sites. Tragically, Aaron Schwartz killed himself on January 11th of 2013, about 2 weeks before a significant evidence suppression hearing in his legal case. Shortly after Schwartz's death, his attorney sent a letter to the Office of Professional Responsibility of the U.S. Department of Justice requesting an inquiry into the conduct of the lead prosecutor, Assistant U.S. Attorney Stephen Heyman. According to Schwartz's lawyer, AUSA Heyman appears to have failed timely to disclose exculpatory evidence relevant to Mr. Schwartz's pending motions to suppress. Indeed, the evidence suggests AUSA Heyman may have misrepresented to the court the extent of the federal government's involvement in the investigation into Mr. Schwartz's conduct prior to the application for certain search warrants. Second, AUSA Heyman appears to have abused his discretion when he attempted to coerce Mr. Schwartz into foregoing his right to a trial by pleading guilty. Specifically, AUSA Heyman offered Mr. Schwartz 4 to 6 months in prison for a guilty plea, while threatening to seek over 7 years in prison if Mr. Schwartz chose to go to trial. While the factual similarities between Aaron Schwartz's prosecution and the Mega Upload matter are purely tangential, both cases evoke a common theme of prosecutorial abuse in matters touching upon copyright. On April 25, 2013, Article 19, a non-governmental organization dedicated to defending the right to freedom of expression, published the Right to Share, Principles of Freedom of Expression and Copyright in the Digital Age. There it states that the principles were developed as a result of concerns that the fundamental human right to freedom of expression guaranteed in the UN and regional human rights instruments and nearly every national constitution has been increasingly eroded on the grounds of protecting copyright. The Internet has been at the center of an alarming expansion of copyright claims at the expense of freedom of expression and, more generally, the protection of human rights. These principles affirm that the right to freedom of expression and the free flow of information and ideas cannot be seen as marginal to such developments. Section 1.4 of the Article 19 Principles provides that no restriction on freedom of expression on the ground of protection of the rights of others, including copyright, may be imposed unless the state can demonstrate that the restriction is prescribed by law and is necessary in a democratic society to protect those interests. The burden of demonstrating the validity of the restriction rests with the state. D. A restriction on freedom of expression is proportionate in a democratic society only if 1. It is the least restrictive means available for protecting that interest, and 2. The restriction is compatible with democratic principles. From a human rights perspective, the attack on Mega Upload lacks all sense of proportion and therefore violates the fundamental rights of the company and its executives. Additionally, the U.S. government's numerous due process violations infringe upon internationally guaranteed human rights. In this digital age, with ever-expanding theories of criminal liability for infringement, the U.S. government's target could be virtually anybody. We are all at risk. This is Mega Upload's story, and it impacts you directly. And that was up to page 14 out of 48. And by golly, we've got an hour and a half left. Let's see how long this raid business is. Yeah, fuck it. We're gonna venture further because there's some There's some tasty stuff in here. We should at least cover it. We got the time, right? A raid made in Hollywood. Coatesville, New Zealand, January 20th, 2012, 6:46, I'm assuming in the AM. The early morning air was shattered by the thumping rotors of helicopters swooping down, seemingly out of nowhere, onto the grounds of a sprawling private residence. Dozens of units of New Zealand's elite special tactics group and armed offenders squad, dressed in full body armor and operating under the direction of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, U.S. by the way, fanned out across the property, taking up tactical positions and disabling security personnel. Armed with M4 semi-automatic rifles and trained attack dogs, a total of some 70 men swarmed the premises. With an overwhelming show of force, they smashed down doors, breached the property, neutralized its occupants, and successfully detained their targets. By all appearances, the FBI was in hot pursuit of a fugitive drug lord or deadly terrorist cell. A surprise daybreak operation of that scale would surely indicate genuine concern that armed and dangerous criminals might be lurking inside, poised for a showdown, holed up and ready for a shootout with authorities. But in fact, it was nothing of the sort. The man who lives in that house in the serene pastoral community of Coatesville, New Zealand, is much more dangerous. He is a successful internet entrepreneur, the founder of Mega Upload, one of the world's most popular cloud storage services, and he has angered the Motion Picture Association of America. Some users of the Mega Upload service had stored movie files in violation of U.S. copyright laws, and the White House was eager to appease its Hollywood benefactors who wanted to make an example of Mega Upload. By the time the raid was over, KimDotCom and 3 other Mega Upload executives, Phil Botato, Matthias Ortman, Bram van der Kolk, were behind bars. KimDotCom had been forcibly extracted from a safe room in the compound where he had fled in alarm, assuming criminals had invaded the home. I had a punch to the face. I had boots kicking me down to the floor. I had a knee into the ribs, and my hands were on the floor. One man was standing on my hand, he later told Auckland High Court under cross-examination. His wife, 27 weeks pregnant with twins at the time, was so traumatized that she was taken to the hospital with pain and cramping. Hours before launching the raid, aptly dubbed Operation Debut, federal prosecutors in the United States tipped off journalists with anticipated highlights of the operation. Hundreds of computer servers around the world would soon be shut down. The domain names of Mega Upload and its related websites would all be seized and emblazoned with the FBI seal for the world to see. No matter that millions of innocent users would lose non-infringing personal files stored on the Mega Upload servers, the important thing was that the company, which at one point accounted for 4% of the entire world's internet traffic, would be destroyed in an instant. When the operation was over, the U.S. Department of Justice issued a press release. This action is among the largest criminal copyright cases ever brought by the United States and directly targets the misuse of a public content storage and distribution site to commit and facilitate intellectual property crime. A 72-page grand jury indictment was soon released, filed in secret in a Virginia federal court 2 weeks before the raid. It had stated that Mega Upload, KimDotCom, and 6 other Mega Upload executives were criminally responsible for any and all copyright infringement by the company's customers. Mega Upload and the 6 executives were labeled criminal racketeers, charged like the Gambino crime family under the Racketeering Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act enacted to combat organized crime, accused of having formed Mega Upload for the sole purpose of operating a worldwide criminal organization, an ongoing conspiracy to commit secondary copyright infringement. Yet branding Mega Upload and its executives as criminals was not enough. The U.S. prosecutors applied to a federal court in Virginia behind closed doors for an order allowing the government to seize all worldwide assets belonging to Mega Upload. KimDotCom and the other defendants, including those of unindicted third parties, such as the defendants' wives and KimDotCom's personal assistants, depriving the defendants of any financial resources with which to fund a defense or to counter the charges, the U.S. government promptly initiated extradition proceedings to bring KimDotCom to the United States to stand trial. Eventually, after 31 days behind bars, he was released on bail in New Zealand against the wishes of the U.S. government. Meanwhile, luxury vehicles owned by KimDotCom were paraded in front of television cameras while the media published detailed lists of seized properties comprising some $67 million in assets. Over the years, the content industry has worked to create a link between copyright infringement and piracy, gaining a subtle upper hand simply by shaping the phraseology. Piracy remains a powerful evaluative word. To be called an intellectual property pirate is to be condemned. In a world where attention spans are divided by the media into 10-second sound bites, it is the perfect word to use on TV, video cassettes, newspaper headlines, and the radio. The received folk memory of pirates and rovers on the sea does the rest. Copyright holders have been so successful in linking infringement with piracy that the two words have become virtually interchangeable. Even with the Special 301 reports issued annually by the Office of United States Trade Representative speak of copyright piracy. In the specific case of Mega Upload and KimDotCom, the MPAA first labeled them pirates in November 2010 in response to the USTR's request for information on markets where counterfeit and pirated products are prevalent. And so Hollywood had cast its latest villain, KimDotCom, and his gang were now pirates, reveling in illicit spoils, no longer innovative internet entrepreneurs, but thieves. Very damning. Yeah, this is going to impact all of us eventually. I mean, it's pretty damning. I mean, I can see a lot of characterization in this and stuff, but it's not unearned, really. It's not. I mean, considering the overreach involved here, I'd say they've earned every adjective and verb on this thing that further outlines the content of their activity. And really, I find it kind of offensive. You know, that this kind of shit. I mean, for one thing, it's one thing if they're prosecuting him within the United States. Okay, yeah, sure. Then it's you know, some sort of jurisdiction there. You know, but basically they're saying the planet. You know, I mean, that's kind of ridiculous, don't you think? I mean, especially because most of the planet is not under their legal jurisdiction. So, you know, this bullshit about like coercing other governments to play along, it's very dismaying. Anyway, whether or not to continue on with music. Yeah, I can use a minor break. And we are going to continue plowing on through this bad boy, though. And we may finish it tonight, but we may not. Don't hold it against me if we don't. It's terribly long. But let's go ahead and throw down a little bit of Tool for the moment. A little Vicarious for us here on Coin Metal. And we're coming into the last hour half blind and a little bit deaf. because for some stupid reason this thing isn't actually outputting out to my speakers, so I can't listen to the wonderful music along with you guys. I don't understand it. I'm not going to fight it for right now. Just going to plow on through this PDF and keep it rocking. And so we're on page 16 right now, the rise of mega upload and cloud computing. Here we go. KimDotCom was born Kim Schmitz on January 21st, 1974 in Kiel, Germany. Brilliant from a young age, he struggled with boredom in school and became known for clowning in class. At the age of 12, his life changed forever when his mother brought him his first computer, and he quickly immersed himself in the world of software coding and computer gaming. He mastered games and even designed some games of his own for sale. Before long, he was able to generate enough income from his computing skills to rent a small apartment for himself. Like many technology gurus before him, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, to name two prominent examples, Kim initially gained fame as a teenage hacker. He ran his own bulletin board system, BBS, from a modem array and experimented with X.25 networks, PBX phone networks, and blue boxing. He met Matthias Ortman, who would later become his business partner and Mega Upload's chief technology officer. He converted his hacking skills into a business enterprise by launching a data security consulting firm with Matthias Ortman they named Data Protect. It was one of the world's first white hat security consultancies, serving such corporate giants as Daimler and the German stock exchange Deutsche Börse by auditing and ensuring the security of their networks. Over the next 4 years, Data Protect grew to some 30 employees with annual revenues of several $1 million. Kim, however, was frustrated by what he saw as growth limitations in the consulting sector. He sold Data Protect to a competitor in 2001 and went on to pursue startup investment opportunities in the booming tech sector. In 2004, Kim moved to Hong Kong, where he began to focus on a solution to a problem he had stumbled upon almost by accident. As an amateur and auto racing enthusiast, he had tried to email his personal racing videos to friends, only to have the emails rejected because his video files were too large. Kim set out to innovate a solution, and after months of work, his developers constructed a website and a series of servers that could efficiently store and transfer files too large to transmit as email attachments. Mega Upload was thus born and was launched to the public in 2005. Mega Upload served a growing demand for users to access their personal files from any computer in the world, allowing them to break free from their former reliance on their own computer hard drives to store and back up data. Instead, customers could upload, download, use, and share whatever content they selected. Family photos, financial records, collaborative business documents, academic materials, video and music files, just to name a few, hosting their files on the Mega Upload servers in a cloud of sorts, and reaching them at will from any computer with access to the internet. Cloud computing offers a variety of benefits, including broad network access, resource pooling, rapid elasticity, on-demand self-service, and measured cost-effective service. Mega Upload's primary business, MegaUpload.com, was a commercial website that offered a popular internet-based storage platform for customers ranging from individuals to large businesses. Its storage platform allowed users to store files on the internet quote-unquote cloud and use online storage space and bandwidth as needed. In a crowded field of competitors offering cloud storage services, Mega Upload quickly established itself as a market leader. Mega Upload was fast, free, and easy to use. When Mega Upload was shut down, the content stored across its servers spanned a veritable ocean of accumulated human learning, knowledge, information, personal narrative, artistry, and entertainment. At one point in its history, MegaUpload.com was estimated to be the 13th most frequently visited website on the entire internet. The site had more than 1 billion unique visitors per year, with more than 60 million registered users and an average of some 50 million daily visits. It accounted for, on average, approximately 4% of the total traffic across the internet. In order to host the massive amount of unique data uploaded by its users, MegaUpload leased thousands of computer servers all over the world, most of them outside the United States. MegaUpload's income was derived primarily from two sources: premium subscriptions and online advertising. Premium subscriptions could be purchased online for as little as a few dollars per day or as much as $260 for a lifetime. In exchange for payment of the subscription fee, premium users enjoyed more storage space, higher transfer speeds, and additional site features. Subscription fees collected during the company's existence were estimated to exceed $150 million, whereas receipts from online advertising on MegaUpload.com and affiliated sites totaled a mere fraction of that, estimated at somewhere above $25 million. Although MegaUpload was a market leader, the technology it employed was not unique amongst cloud storage service providers. Like other providers, Dropbox for example, MegaUpload optimized cloud storage with hash technology. Whenever a file was uploaded to the site, an automated system used a mathematical algorithm to calculate a unique identifier called an MDS hash for the file. If the file determined that multiple users had uploaded the identical file, MegaUpload would retain only one instance of the file and generate a unique link for each individual user called a Uniform Resource Locator or URL. One user might choose to keep their unique link private. Another user might wish to share their link with a close friend or family member by way of an email. And yet another user might make it more widely available by embedding it in a web page. MegaUpload simply stored users' files on its servers at the request of the users. Thus, contrary to what the U.S. government has suggested in its indictment, MegaUpload's core business model was no different from numerous other mainstream internet service providers. And I just wanted to check something out really quick here. Oh, cool. All right, here. And we're on part 3, page 19 out of 48. We may digest it tonight. We may not. I don't know. I don't care. We're going to keep going. A case of fatal flaws. The case against MegaUpload and its executives is extraordinary, but not because, in the words of the U.S. Department of Justice, it is the biggest copyright case in history. The case is astonishing because it is so clearly meritless. It is marked by layer upon layer of flawed legal reasoning, by repeated prosecutorial abuses and the due process violations, and by corrupting influence of lobbyist fees and campaign contributions. It is clearly not the biggest copyright case in history, but it may be the most scandalous, and it signals an ominous future for network technology, innovation, and free speech. Criminal copyright infringement requires willful infringement, a very rigorous level of criminal intent, and it is one of the rare criminal claims where both ignorance of the law and the defendant's mistaken belief that he is compliant with the law are complete defenses. MegaUpload immediately responded to the takedown notices from copyright holders on millions of occasions. The company's subjective belief that it was operating within the law, even if it turns out to have somehow been wrong in that regard, should by itself be enough to negate the criminal willfulness requirement, especially considering the novel nature of the prosecution's legal theory. No criminal liability for secondary copyright infringement. The U.S. government argues that Mega Upload and its executives encouraged criminal copyright infringement by the company's users and should therefore be held criminally liable for the infringing conduct of those third parties. Gordon Campbell's article in the Kiwi publication Werewolf highlights the implications of that approach. As an offense, criminal contributory copyright infringement sounds like trying to prosecute the president of a gun club for contributory bank robbery because some club members use their pistols to rob Wells Fargo. But the government's problem is not merely the slippery slope it starts down when it tries to hold companies responsible for the conduct of their customers. The prosecutor's legal theory has very real, indeed insurmountable hurdles as well. The fact of the matter is that the notion of criminal liability for secondary copyright infringement does not exist within U.S. law. The attempt by prosecutors to expand criminal liability for secondary infringement by couching it as aiding and abetting or conspiracy goes against established precedent in case law and repeated positions taken by the U.S. Congress. The Copyright Act creates civil and criminal liability for various acts of copyright infringement, but it does not expressly give rise to liability for infringement committed by third parties. Furthermore, the U.S. Supreme Court has defined specific circumstances under which service providers may be held civilly liable, i.e. not criminally responsible, for direct copyright infringement by third parties, such as distributing a device with the object of promoting its use to infringe copyright. The fundamental legal problem with this aspect of the government's case is that only Congress can create new criminal liability. Judges cannot. Previous instances in which courts have imposed civil liability for secondary copyright infringement based on application of common law principles do not apply in criminal proceedings, as federal crimes are solely creatures of statute. Whatever authority the courts may have had to recognize a contributory theory of copyright liability in the civil context, the courts simply have no power to impose a basis for criminal liability beyond what is expressly authorized by the statute. There have been other cases in which the U.S. Supreme Court rejected attempts by prosecutors to expand criminal copyright liability. In one such case, Dowling v. United States, a California man was charged criminally for selling bootleg recordings of Elvis Presley concerts through the U.S. Postal Service. After the matter had worked its way through the court system, Supreme Court Justice Harry Blackmun succinctly stated that the rule applies equally here. The precision with which Congress has addressed the problem of copyright infringement for profit, as well as the precision with which it has chosen to apply criminal penalties in this area, demonstrates anew the wisdom of leaving it to the legislature to define crime and prescribe penalties. Legal analysts have been quick to decry those occasions when federal courts have usurped the exclusive power of Congress to define criminal conduct. Harvard-educated attorney J.V. Pabhue, for example, criticized the Supreme Court's 1997 decision in United States v. O'Hagan, which extended the criminal liability for insider trading to a partner in a law firm who traded securities using material non-public information he misappropriated from a client. The defendant had committed fraud on the source, meaning his fraud was directed against the client from whom he misappropriated the information, as distinguished from classic insider trading, which involves fraud on the purchaser or seller of the securities. This so-called misappropriation theory of criminal liability was a creation of the courts, not Congress, used to fill a perceived gap in securities regulations. In the words of J.B. Prabhu, With aggrandizing boldness and without guidance from Congress, the SEC and the U.S. Department of Justice have consistently asked federal courts for expanding interpretations of Section 10b that reach far beyond any boundaries ever contemplated by the legislature. These attempted expansions of Section 10b all failed, not because the court disagreed with the policies of the government sought to advance, but because the court adhered to the constitutional principle that Congress must make these policy judgments in legislation that it enacts. Any contrary result would violate the long-standing principle that it's the legislature, not the court, which is to define crime and ordain its punishment. Mr. Prabhu concluded his critique with the pressing observation, one that applies equally to the prosecution's theory of criminal secondary copyright infringement in the Mega Upload case. As one would expect, the SEC has preferred the flexibility offered by case-by-case determinations, which enables the government to prosecute evolving types of conduct. It is not the executive's constitutional role, with the approval of the judiciary, to criminalize activities. J.V. Prabhu was squared and appropriately on the side of principled constitutionality when he made those observations, which were published in 1998 while he was employed as an associate with William Cutler & Pickering, a Washington law firm that had represented Mr. O'Hagan during the SEC's investigation of his case. Interestingly, Jay later moved from the private practice of law to become a federal prosecutor in the Eastern District of Virginia, the chief of the U.S. Department of Justice's Cybercrime Unit, from where he personally signed the Mega Upload indictment. Thus, the standard Mr. Prabhu called one of the fundamental tenets of our Constitution when he denounced the Department of Justice's expansion of criminal liability for securities fraud no longer seems to dictate the context of alleged secondary copyright infringement now that his current employer is tasked with championing the interests of the copyright lobby. In other words, he got bought. Moreover, unlike the statute governing the O'Hagan case, which created a broad and pliable definition of criminal activity, Congress has had a number of opportunities to expand the criminal liability for secondary copyright infringement, but instead is moved in the opposite direction. For example, in 2004, Congress rejected a bill that would have created secondary liability under the Copyright Act. Subsequently, Congress twice amended the Copyright Act's criminal provisions, and both times it omitted any reference to vicarious or contributory liability. It would be a radical departure to extend secondary liability into criminal proceedings when Congress has taken affirmative steps to scale back even civil liability of this sort. The history of legislative activity in this area confirms that Congress is attuned to the difficulties new technologies can present, seeking to maintain a balance between protection for intellectual property and protection for innovation. The Mega Upload indictment tips the scales toward copyright extremism by trying to criminalize innocent businessmen for the unlawful conduct of third parties. Notwithstanding the U.S. government's improper attempt to extend criminal liability to alleged secondary infringement, the government's indictment also falls short because it makes no attempt to allege facts that could constitute double willfulness, namely that Mega Upload willfully aided and abetted a willing primary infringer. The government perhaps omitted such allegations because it was aware that Mega Upload and its executives took steps to reduce potential copyright infringement by the company's third-party users. The prosecution's allegation of a mega conspiracy is not enough to cure its flawed theory of criminal secondary infringement because the conspiracy requires a specific agreement to commit a secondary copyright infringement. A specific agreement to commit a specific crime. My apologies on that one. I skipped a line. Any agreement amongst defendants could not possibly have contemplated secondary copyright infringement because, as noted, no such crime exists. Moreover, the indictment does not allege any agreement between the defendants and the third-party users, nor does it assert even a single instance of direct criminal infringement by any of the users. Therefore, even if secondary infringement were a viable legal theory for criminal liability, the indictment fails to set out a viable case for conspiracy. Substantial non-infringement uses. The U.S. government cannot even argue that the conduct of Mega Upload and its executives gives rise to civil liability for secondary infringement, much less criminal liability. The U.S. Supreme Court decision in Sony Betamax established that distributors of products or services capable of substantial non-infringing uses are not civilly liable for secondary civil infringement. The vast scope and scale of non-infringing uses for Mega Upload's cloud storage service are so obvious that they should require no further elucidation, although the U.S. government apparently fails to see them at all. Users of almost every possible variety, from young children to major multinational corporations, were instantly given access to massive amounts of digital space and bandwidth without the substantial financial outlay that would otherwise have been required to organize computer servers and internet architecture in their homes or businesses. At its peak, the Mega Upload network was running at a rate of 1.5 terabytes per second, equivalent to about 48,000 file transfers per minute. Most of Mega Upload's hundreds of millions of hosted files were downloaded less than 10 times, many of them not at all, which, contrary to the picture portrayed by the U.S. government, indicates a very high level of protected and lawful use. The Mega Upload service was used not only by top business executives but also by IP addresses originating at the FBI and other U.S. government agencies, among others. Furthermore, many legitimate uses of the Mega Upload service have since come forward. For example, in a somewhat ironic twist, Michael Weinberg, a staff attorney at the rights watchdog Public Knowledge, remarked, "As luck would have it, over the weekend I used my home laptop to pull down the stream of the House Judiciary Committee Stop Online Privacy Act markup. I wanted to transfer it here to work so I could cut it up into a video we were using. As I uploaded it, but before I had a chance to download it, Mega Upload was shut down. I can't speak for everything happening on the site, but Mega Upload was providing me a completely legitimate service for a completely legitimate end." Indeed, the YouTube case and others have already demonstrated that the non-infringing uses of cloud storage and file sharing in today's world are limited only by the imagination of users. Emerging musicians seeking to gain exposure by sharing their work with fans, film students on opposite sides of the world trading edits to a documentary in real time, mobile apps developers exchanging modules with users, graphic arts designers delivering work product to their clients, yes, even amateur auto racing enthusiasts sharing racing videos with their friends. The very reason KimDotCom developed Mega Upload in the first place, are engaged in legitimate non-infringing use, and the potential non-infringing uses are literally infinite. In light of these realities, the assertion by the U.S. prosecutors that Mega Upload contrived its business exclusively to facilitate copyright infringement is completely spurious. Unfortunately, when the U.S. government seized Mega Upload's domains and servers, it placed the financial interests of relatively few copyright holders above the interests of millions of legitimate users who were instantly, indefinitely, and without warning denied further access to their personal files. According to one report, at least 15,634 U.S. military personnel lost access to their Mega Upload accounts, along with many photos and personal files of soldiers deployed overseas. In response to the growing number of complaints from users who lost their files, the non-governmental organization Electronic Frontier Foundation is taking action. EFF, with the support of Mega Upload legal team, has filed several motions before the court on behalf of the entrepreneur Kyle Goodwin, seeking the return of his private property, which he contends was expropriated by the U.S. government. Mr. Goodwin used Mega Upload to run a business making children's sports videos for their parents, and his case underscores the U.S. government's disregard for the rights of legitimate users. In no area of commercial or personal activity is the government allowed to seize property without taking reasonable measures, to avoid unnecessary harm and loss of commercial value. That should be no less true when the property is information. Thus, if the government is going to get into the business of seizing internet properties used to host a wide range of content, infringing and not, it must implement procedures and standards for protecting the property and due process rights of innocents such as Mr. Goodwin, who use those services for legitimate purposes. Since the government seems uninterested in developing those processes and standards itself, this case should serve as a starting point for the judiciary to do so. The issue of non-infringing use is both dispositive and vital to understanding why the content industry is so exercised over file-sharing services like Mega Upload. After Sony Betamax established that distributors of products with substantial non-infringing uses are not liable in civil court for copyright infringement by their customers, the content industry began a frenzied campaign in Washington which persists to this day to undermine that doctrine. If the treatment of Mega Upload is any indication, they have no plans to give up. Rewards program, not a contributor to infringement. Another glaring falsehood in the U.S. government's indictment is that Mega Upload's Uploader Rewards program aimed to provide financial incentives to its premium subscribers to upload copies of popular works to the site and thereby encourage or contribute to infringement. Like most of the government's other arguments, that assertion is not only deceptive and wrong, it defies logic. Mega Upload's rewards program was not designed to facilitate privacy. Its purpose was to grow the user base of the cloud storage site and attract new paying premium members in a copyright agnostic manner, which is to say without assessing content or analyzing whether new members would be less or more likely to upload infringing material. In that sense, Mega Upload was no more intended its rewards program to encourage infringement than an airline's frequent flyer program is calculated to inspire drug smugglers, which it probably does. Some of Mega Upload's contributors in the cloud storage sector, like RapidShare and YouTube, also recognize the potential business value of a rewards program. Although Mega Upload discontinued its program in July 2011, to some extent in response to complaints by the entertainment industry and without any measurable effect on site traffic, other cloud storage service providers continued their incentive programs long after Mega Upload stopped. Setting aside the motivation behind Mega Upload's incentive program, The company took steps to deter infringing uses of cloud storage. The company restricted incentive rewards to files no larger than 100 megabytes, precisely because movie files are almost never smaller than that. Additionally, only paying premium customers who were required to provide identifying information were permitted to participate in the program, alerting them when any abuse would not be anonymous. Thus, far from encouraging copyright infringement, Mega Upload's incentive program took measures to discourage it, and the government had only to look at the program's terms and conditions to understand that. The U.S. government could not even argue that Mega Upload's rewards program would give rise to civil liability for secondary infringement. Encouraging premium subscribers to use cloud storage with their colleagues clearly has substantial non-infringing purposes, and it matters not whether Mega Upload benefited financially from attracting new paying premium members through its rewards program. Further, as noted, the file size limitations and other identification features incorporated into the program demonstrate a desire to discourage infringement, not encourage it. Safe harbor and beyond. And you know what? I think we can actually pause right there really quick. Let's go ahead and pause on that one because it does eject into another page here. So, I am going to briefly pause, and we'll go ahead and throw in a little bit of Static X here. No submission here on CoinMetal. Oh. And that was a little bit of Psychosocial there by Slipknot. Sometimes I look at some of these articles and stuff and I wonder, what fucking planet did I wake up on today? I mean, this doesn't seem like Earth. There's something wrong. Did I wake up in an alternate universe? Did I transcend space and time and hop over to the other side or what? What the hell? Anyway, I do want to continue on reading this thing. We got about 23 minutes left in the evening, and of course we'll stuff in there a last dance, but I at least want to take on another page or two of this thing and see what we can round out for the close of the evening. And it's really funny because I pulled up all kinds of shit about UASF thinking I was going to read that today, and I'm glad that I didn't, but there was some stuff I actually wanted to cover on that. Well, we'll have to save it until Wednesday. Hump day. Anyway, let's go ahead and dive back into this PDF. And if you aren't sure where we're at, we're on page 26. You can find the link for the white paper on my Twitter feed. And join us. Anyway, we're at Safe Harbor under D, Safe Harbor and Beyond. As with any cloud storage service or, for that matter, online services of any kind, Mega Upload was susceptible to misuse by some customers. Any service that enables users to upload and share digital files across the internet might be used to infringe underlying copyrights. To address this issue and to prevent misuse of the service, Mega Upload instituted several measures to comply with global safe harbor provisions such as the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. To begin with, Mega Upload cooperated with copyright owners by following the notice and takedown procedures described in the DMCA, and it designated an agent to receive notices from copyright owners. Accordingly, upon receipt of a signed written notification from a copyright owner, credibly identifying the presence of an allegedly infringing work, Mega Upload was, as a matter of course, would act expeditiously to remove or disable access to the infringing URL. The recent federal court decision in Viacom v. YouTube, which upholds the safe harbor provisions of the DMCA by declaring unequivocally that generalized knowledge of infringement does not deprive a service provider of those protections, further highlights the challenges of the U.S. government faces in its case against Mega Upload. Additionally, as Professor Goldman has noted, the very fact that Mega Upload and its executives believed they were in compliance with the DMCA's safe harbor provisions, even if for argument's sake they were not, negates the element of criminal intent required for criminal liability. Copyright infringement requires willful infringement, a very rigorous scienter level. What's a scienter? Mega Upload's business choices may not have been ideal, but Mega Upload has a number of strong potential defenses for its users' activities, including 512c, lack of volitional conduct, and more. Whether it actually qualified for these is irrelevant. Mega Upload's subjective belief in these defenses should destroy the willfulness requirement. Mega Upload went even beyond compliance with the DMCA's safe harbor provisions. For example, Mega Upload negotiated with numerous major copyright holders or their agents, including the Recording Industry Association of America, Disney, Warner Brothers, NBC, and Microsoft, to allow them access to remove directly, without the oversight or involvement of Mega Upload, an active link to material they believed infringed their copyrights. This enhanced access enabled such parties to protect their copyrights without need for formal takedown notices under the DMCA, and resulted in more than 15 million takedowns. Although not required under the DMCA, the company also implemented various internal measures to discouraging infringement. And apparently I had a minor technical glitch during the original broadcast of this. Unfortunately, the last few minutes did get cut off, but fear not, I have posted several times the link for this PDF available on my Twitter feed. If you would like to read along and finish up where this video had left off, please feel free to go ahead and click on that and do so. And we will be coming back on Wednesday for more Coin Metal at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Tune in as you wish. Until then, you have a great night.